Welcome to Talking Jazz, and my guest today is Warren Wolf, great vibraphone player, educator, just overall fantastic musician, and not, well, rising and rising higher, but already a really, really great track record of great music and great recordings. What we want to do is we're going to listen to some of your music, and I love how you picked music from different time frames and eras and combinations. Overall, you call yourself a multi-instrumentalist, but I guess mainly the mallets is what you do. So give us a little background, how you got into music and what fascinated you about those mallets.
I got into music because of my father. His name is Warren Wolf Sr. Well, he's retired, but he was a history teacher in Baltimore City Public Schools. On the weekends, he had a band, 1980s that I'm talking about. It wasn't necessarily a jazz band. They played music. They just played good music because it was kind of like a party band. They played at nightclubs where people dance. So they played music Motown era, who was big at the time. They played Anita Baker, Michael Jackson, Yellow Jackets, Spyro Gyra. And if they did go down the jazz road, it would probably be somebody along Grover Washington, Stanley Torrentine. They might play the occasional blues, something like Freddie the Freeloader, Miles Davis. But that was pretty much it as far as swing goes. But, they just kind of just had a good time. So as a young child, I used to hang out, when they would rehearse in our basement in our house. I used to just sit on the steps and just listen to them. Me growing up in a pretty rough part of Baltimore, my dad wanted to give me something to do versus a lot of the other kids. They were just hanging outside and just getting into trouble. I went outside and played with my friends too, but my dad still wanted me to have a certain trade or a career. So he started giving me formal lessons at the age of 3. It wasn't anything that was focused necessarily on the vibes. Because my dad plays total percussion, he wanted me to do everything just like him. My practice time at that age, I was 3 years old. It consisted of, in no particular order, 30 minutes on the vibes or marimba, another 30 minutes on drum set or snare drum, and then another 30 minutes on piano or keyboard studies. Now, within those 30 minutes, you never know what it could have been. One day, like Monday, it could have been classical music. Tuesday, we could turn around and say, hey, we're going to learn some transcriptions by Charlie Parker or somebody. It could have came back to Wednesday, we're going to learn music of the Beatles, American Songbook. It just kept going. But no matter what, we always got, those 90 minutes in every single day, except for Sundays. Now, Saturdays, I started to take lessons at Peabody Prep, the preparatory school, with a member of the Baltimore Symphony Orchestra. And he's now deceased, but his name is Leo LePage. So I was taking classical lessons with him. Now, the good thing about Leo, he was also a jazz drummer back many years ago. So we would do a little bit of jazz, but to be honest, jazz was very hard for me. I just did not understand chord changes and figuring out what note goes with this. But the one thing that I was really good at was reading. I honestly thought that I was going to be a classical musician coming up. I was really good at playing classical music. One thing just led to it next. I started to just listen more. Like my dad had me listening to Sonny Rollins solos. Again, I had no idea what was going on. I would just read it and just try to copy him. And that was pretty much it. That's how the beginnings of how I got into music.
That's fascinating, especially the nurture idea that if you have a role model and somebody fostering you, what effect that can have. And I also love the idea of going either way. It's kind of like a Quincy Jones story, right? When he realized, well, he shouldn't go run with the gangs. Maybe I should rather learn the trumpet.
But like I said, you have to be a kid. My dad was not going to just say you do music all day. I definitely went outside. I played basketball and ran around in the streets with friends and things like that. But sometimes some of those other kids, that's all they did. They went to school and they stayed out. They didn't have the parents or they didn't have a 2-parent home. And I did. And I have 2 older sisters as well. Even though I'm the baby and then there's 2 girls. Not the oldest one, but to a certain degree, even the music that they were playing around the house. Like my older sister is 9 years older than me. The other one is 5 years older. Just listening to a lot of groups that they were listening to, early rap music and R&B, like they were big into LL Cool J and things like that, and Run DMC, the whole Def Jam era from Russell Simmons. Just hearing all of these different styles of music has helped create the person that I am. And I try to show a little bit of that.
I can can attest to that. I have siblings that are 7 and 8 years older, and I learned so much by running around with them. And that is so cool if you have these older siblings where you can hang on to and just go along. Third child is a good thing to be. The first one we'll listen to is Sunrise. You know, I love how you can play with your last name, and you called the album Wolfgang, which you know is a great play with. There's Mozart, but there's also the Gang of the Wolves.
The title of that really was aiming toward Mozart. This is not a track that I chose, but the very last track on this record, I wanted to actually feature. I mean, again, this is not a track we planned, but the last track on the record was something I just wanted to do that was completely outside of straight ahead jazz. I decided to play the Carnival of Venice, which is, you know, actually a trumpet piece, and it's very hard and it moves around a lot, but I decided to play that song on marimba. And, you know, other elements of the record, even though we were playing jazz music, it had some type of classical harmony and classical movements. That's why I decided, I was like, let's just name it Wolfgang.
That's very cool. And, you know, and you did play with the Baltimore Symphony, and you have that crossover. So absolutely. So this was in 2013, and it's one of your Mack Avenue releases. It features, so you're on the vibraphone on this one, and you got some great players on that, with Aaron Goldberg on piano and Chris Funn on bass and Billy Williams on drums.
Yes.
And it was recorded at the Avatar Studios, the legendary studios in New York.
I think the first 3 records on Mack Avenue were all recorded at Avatar. Great studio, lots of history in that room, and yeah, good sound, everything.
Yeah, I got to do the first Shiro's recording there.
You did. I saw that. That's right.
Before they closed down, and you're just in awe when you walk in there and you see all the recordings on the walls that are the ones you admire and you love.
I haven't been there since, you know, Berkeley has bought it. Curious to see. I think they remodeled the whole thing and put Berkeley's signature on it. So I'm curious to see what that looks like now.
Listen to how it sounds like. So here is Sunrise from Wolfgang on Mack Avenue 2013, with Warren Wolf on the vibraphone, Aaron Goldberg, Chris Funn, Billy Williams, and here we go. That was Sunrise from Wolfgang, the 2013 Mac Avenue recording. And my guest today is Warren Wolf, talking about his artistry and his music. We just heard you on the vibraphone, and on the next one we'll listen to, you'll be playing marimba. You know, I think marimba is an even harder instrument than vibraphone because there's no sustain. You know, it's like a big xylophone. All you can do is just hit the notes. But you know, if you're a horn player, you always have that advantage. You can make all these hot notes and bend them and do all kinds of cool things. Us percussion type instruments, piano or marimba, you know, you hit a note and that's all you get, and you have to find other ways to be expressive. Tell us a little bit about your approach to marimba, or how you can get this jazz feel and work.
Weird, you know, I've come across a few mallet players who have said to me, like, we'll be on gigs and they'll say things like, you know, I'm not a marimba player, or vice versa, I'm not a vibes player. For me, I look at both as the same, and I'm probably saying that because I had equal amounts of time playing both instruments, and personally I really don't see the difference outside of using the sustain pedal in the vibes, or you're just physically rolling a note on the marimba. For me, the marimba is a little bit easier because when you're playing the vibes, everything is flat. Like when you're trying to reach the black notes, I'll say, if we were looking at the piano, everything is flat, it's even. But when you're playing the black notes, I'm just quote unquote black notes on the marimba, everything is slightly elevated. So you get a more percussive sound, you get a more wooden sound. I actually would prefer the marimba on most of my gigs if I could, but you know, those are more expensive, they're bigger, it takes a little bit more personnel to move the instrument around. On this particular track, I am playing vibes on this one. I'm just more using it as the chords. So when you're, you know, I've had people when they listen to this track, they will say, man, is that a Fender Rhodes under your marimba solo? And I said, no, I'm playing all chords, just very softly on the vibes. And I just wanted to add a marimba feel over the top of it.
That's interesting because I made a note. I said, who are the mystery keys on that? You didn't have a keyboard player noted on that.
Yeah.
So it's yourself on the vibraphone.
So I went and did a lot of, not too many overdubs, but you know, I just added some textures. I mean, there are a few other places on a few other songs on the record where I also played double instruments, and there's actually, I think, one song, maybe two songs where I actually played some piano. But no, this particular track is definitely vibes in the background for chords, all marimba solos.
And you know, that's a very physical instrument. I love watching when people play this because you have to like go with it with your whole body, and it's big, and you have to go.
You can move to the right, you can move to the left. You know? A lot of things you can do with this one.
Right. Yeah. And good luck with carrying it around. I'll leave that up to you. Well, okay. So this is from a 2016 Mac Avenue release. And I'll ask you after we listen to this one a little bit about the relationship with Mac Avenue too, because that's an important thing too. But we'll listen to a tune called Montera, which is a Bobby Hutcherson tune. On this one, well, we'll hear you double on marimba and then some mystery background sounds. And it has Christian McBride on the bass and Jeff Tane Watts on drums. So
they were the only two
fancy rhythm section.
Well, they were the only two musicians available, so I just figured I'd call them. So
good call. Good call.
And we had a wonderful time playing this tune in the studio.
Enjoy listening to this one. Amazing musician, an amazing rendition. So here's Montera from Convergent, a 2016 Mac Avenue release with Warren Wolf on marimba and vibraphone and Christian McBride on bass and Jeff Tane Watts on drums. That was Montera from Convergence, a 2016 Mac Avenue release with my guest today, Warren Wolf. You know, Mac Avenue is a wonderful jazz label. It's probably the independent jazz label out there. Tell us a little bit how you struck the relationship with them and the support structure you get from them.
My relationship with Mac Avenue started all because of a very special lady, alto saxophonist Miss Tia Fuller. Tia and I, we're like really close friends. We're actually like best friends. I have many best friends, but she's definitely one of them. And when we talk, we rarely ever talk about music. But I think when she was about to make her second recording on Mac Avenue, we were just talking on the phone one day, and she said, "Hey Warren, I'm about to go in the studio. I have a couple songs that would sound great with Vibe. Would you like to do it?" And I said, "Sure." I went into the studio. I think we did 2 or 3 songs for the label. From there, their eyes were kind of like just opening up. They was like, "Wait, who is this guy? We never heard of him." Mm-hmm. And then right around that same time is when I joined Christian McBride band Inside Straight. And a lot of people think my association with Mac Avenue was because of him. Now, it probably helped even more, but Tia was the number one person that really opened up that door. From there, you know, with Christian McBride, we recorded 2 records. We did a record called Kind of Brown, which was his debut for the label. And then we recorded another record called People Music. Now we have another record that's in the cans. It'll come out hopefully one day. It's Christian McBride and Inside Straight live at the Village Vanguard. I don't know when that's going to come out. I honestly thought it was going to come out this year, but because of the situation going on in the world, maybe they decided to hold off for a moment. It started all because of Tia Fuller, and I'm very thankful for that.
That's really cool. And, you know, for anybody who doesn't know Tia Fuller, probably her biggest claim to fame was playing with Beyonce, or, you know, kind of a little gig that, but also, you know, being recently Grammy nominated, which is great achievement, and faculty at Berklee.
Yeah, she's done lots of wonderful things. What you just said to combine, you know, she went on the road with Esperanza Spalding and Terry Lynn Carrington. Then of course she has her own group. So, you know, she's doing many wonderful things.
Great role model and wonderful person, supportive. So yeah, that's a great story and a great example of, you know, how this whole networking works. You know, definitely. I often talk to my students. I mean, the way you get to places is by being nice and by making friends.
It's important. I mean, even student to teacher relationships, you never know, because we may be older as the teachers or the educators, but, you know, we always have our ears open. You know, I can say now, like, I've definitely hired a few students on a couple of my gigs just to see how they will fit. It's like, I know they can play. Now, can you really fit in with my material? Let's see what you sound like. But my ears are always open. I just like to listen to see who's next. I've never really believed in using the same musicians, like the same musicians that everybody uses. It's like, man, there are like thousands of other people out here who can really play. They might not have the same drawing power name-wise, but that's okay. I guess a good example I like to tell people, when Miles Davis had his second great quintet with Herbie Hancock and all those guys, nowadays, a lot of us, when we see those records, we're like, wow, Miles Davis, Herbie Hancock, Ron Carter, Tony Williams, Wayne Shorter, that was killing. If you're really looking back at it, at least to my knowledge, I mean, I think it's a good fact, or a good point. Miles Davis was the star. The rest of the guys, they were still coming up. You know, nobody really knew who they were like that. Now imagine if that band, if they had the same drawing power and they were placed right now in 2020, you know, if Tony Williams was still alive and Miles was still alive. We got to give other people a chance. That's the way we just keep things moving.
Tony Williams was 17. He was a baby.
That's what I mean, 17 years old. And there's a lot of 17-year-old drummers out here who can play right now. Now, in 40 years, if somebody saw that record like Warren Wolf and this 17-year-old drummer, they can be like, wow, they collaborated. Truth is, I just heard about this kid who was 17 years old who just happened to be talented. I'm just like, hey, let me give you a chance.
That's the deal. That's absolutely right. That's how it works. Tell us a little bit about that track that we're going to listen to, Katrina. Is it what I think it is?
I don't know what you think it is, but I'm just going to assume. So Katrina it's a minor blues, and I made it right around the time when Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans. That had to be 10 years ago, maybe?
It's more than that.
More than that, yeah. Yeah, I made it for the city of New Orleans. I remember after I recorded it, I told myself I should have made the blues. I should have made it major. because it's kind of like, you know, when they say when people, when they pass away, they have the slow march that people are doing before the funeral. But then once the funeral is done, they play happy music. For example, when the Saints go marching in, it's a happy song to uplift people because we want to celebrate that their body is no longer here and they don't have to deal with the stuff that's going on. It was something in me that I decided to just keep that modern blues going because, I mean, the blues is a big part of New Orleans music. Not necessarily a jazz blues, but just the blues in general. That's a really big part of their style down there. I started the song off, of course, just going back to classical roots. You hear Christian bowing the bass lines with a lot of cymbal swells from Greg Hutchinson. Myself and Tim Green were playing like counter lines along with Peter. He's playing like this, like a two-part Bach invention. You know, my whole thing about that was, I think I was trying to copy Bach's two-part invention. I think it's number 3, the one that's in D minor. You know, same key, but it's just not as fast and things like that. And then eventually we start to build up. You hear that Christian and Peter are playing this motif that's just going over and over. But then that's going to slowly get right to that. That's the chord note for the blues. Jang, jang, dang, you know, just nice and driving nice and slow. So I just wanted to, you know, just kind of bring out at least how I thought that the people were feeling during that time. You know, for the people who lost their loved ones, the people who lost their houses, the musicians community was completely swept away for a moment until they rebuilt it. That was just my dedication for the city of New Orleans.
Well, I appreciate all the insights you just provided into being able to listen to it. And I actually had made a note and said, is this Bach that you...
No, I told you, my classical things were, it's just very much there. I mean, I know I didn't talk about it as much, but when I went to a performing arts high school, and like I said, I honestly thought I was going to be a classical percussionist. My teacher, even in high school, was a member of the Baltimore Symphony. A thing that we had to do, no matter if you were a vocalist or a instrumental music major at my high school, which is the Baltimore School for the Arts, we all had to be in the choir. I'm not a bad singer. I'm not a great singer. I'm okay. But, you know, just hearing all of these wonderful melodies and hearing how 4-part harmony works. Like one of my favorite pieces that I really like to sing is, matter of fact, it's in D minor again. It's Mozart's Requiem. And we had to sing that one. You know, I was a baritone singer. And, you know, I try to take elements of that. I used to listen to Handel's Messiah. It's a piece called the African Sanctus. And then, you know, sometimes for special programs, we would sing like actual gospel songs. I try to take, again, elements of everything that I've tried to learn and just put them in my music, but you'll still feel me, who I am.
That's really cool. Well, I think that's a great way to go into that and process and hear that tribute to Katrina and to all the losses at that time. This version is from 2013,
12, I don't remember the year.
Or early on, but from one of your first Mack Avenue recording. Yes. Under your name, Warren Wolf, featuring the great Peter Martin on piano and Tim Green, Greg Hutchinson on drums, and Christian McBride on the bass. Enjoy. was Katrina by Warren Wolf on the Warren Wolf recording on Mac Avenue. We're gonna listen to two more of yours, and this next one is from a brand new release from this year's release, and Reincarnation, called another Mac Avenue release. Coincidentally, it was released on the same day as I released our Eternal Dance album on February 28th. Probably was one of the last release dates where nobody had envisioned what was going to happen before that happened. Right. So we were in the middle of a release tour and had to turn around by March 15th. How did that go for you?
I must say, when the news about COVID first came out, I mean, me, like many other people, we didn't really pay too much attention. I recall when the record came out, I was happy. I was really happy. I was spreading the news like anybody would on social media. I said, buy the record, because this record was something completely different from me. It was a completely different side. 3 records prior to that on Mac Avenue were pretty much all straight ahead to jazz. I mean, I have 4 other records prior to that as well. I have 2 Japanese imports and then 2 self-produced records. 7 records, straight ahead jazz. As I said earlier, I have this side of me, you know, listen to my dad play all the soul music, and then my sisters listen to R&B and hip hop. I said, you know, I just turned 40 last year, so I wanted to do something just different, kind of like a 40th birthday present. So on this record, I decided to just play R&B inspired jazz. Like when you listen to it, you don't hear, well, you hear literally 1 minute of swing, because I didn't want the people, the jazz police, to say, this record sucks, there's no swing. But really on this record, you're hearing a bunch of grooves. Now, it's still jazz music for the most part, because I'm still using lots of harmony. The only thing that's gone is the whole swing rhythm. So I was really excited for the record to come out. Things started progressing in the world, and then 2 weeks later, bam, everything shut down. And we had a bunch of gigs lined up to promote the record, but everything got canceled. I still may have some gigs for next year for it, but as of now, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we were in the middle of a release tour, and we were actually debating after that, should we like hold it and stop the release and stop having it go out there? You know, overall, I have to say, I mean, listening was going on and people were actually craving for something to listen to. Yeah. Did well on radio. So how did it do for you?
I mean, when it came out, I still had a bunch of interviews, still had to promote it. I finally actually did my first record release show maybe 2 weeks ago for that record, because if I had any type of gig or a live stream, because, you know, a lot of people weren't doing the live stream things so much in March. If I had asked people to get together, some people would have hesitated. Maybe a couple would have said yes. You know, I just wasn't taking any chances. I said, okay, this is not going to work right now. Finally, 7 months later, we're kind of at that point where, you know, a lot of musicians are tired. You know, they miss performing, they miss collaborating with other people. Me and many other of my friends, I mean, not all, but a lot of them, they're at that point now where I can call it, and they feel comfortable coming out to do a live stream. That's just what it is right now.
We're all navigating, and one thing is important, you know, people still need music, and we still need the uplift and listening to it. Yes. And yeah, I was gonna point out that this is a very different sound on this recording, and you have a great young vocalist on that, Imani Grace Cooper, talking about nourishing young talent, right?
Again, yeah, I met her at an event here not here in Baltimore, but in Washington, D.C. maybe 6 years ago. And I told her I wanted to work with her. I told her I had a project in mind, but it just wasn't the right time yet. But I knew this project, I had it in mind 5 years ago. Again, it just wasn't the time yet. When you're trying to, at least how I like to look at it, if you're trying to be a leader, you know, the focus should be on you, and you should be trying to show your audience who you are as a player. You know, just unleash everything. Once I did the 3 records on Mac Avenue, combined with, you know, with Christian McBride and Inside Straight, and playing with the SF Jazz Collective and numerous guest appearances, you know, I felt it was okay for me to go ahead and feature a vocalist on this record. Not saying she's singing on every song, but she's definitely singing on 3 or 4, and she's like really out there. She's not like a background singer. I actually just said, here, you got it. It's your band at the moment. I'll come in later. Yeah, it was a fun thing for me to do this record. You know, we did one of my favorite songs is a tune by the Isley Brothers called For the Love of You. But this particular song, Living the Good Life, I chose this one to play because, again, this is the song that literally has that 1 minute of swing on it. Nicholas Payton is a big influence on me as a composer and as a player. So some of the stuff that you hear on this record, I actually not stole from him, but I'll just say I just kind of just took some ideas that he would typically do on some of his compositions, and I just put them in mine.
That's really cool. Well, let's have a listen. This is from your brand new release, and I encourage everybody, the best thing you can do right now supporting musicians is go find the music, listen to it, buy it, stream it. That's a good important strategy. So it's called Reincarnation, the album. Living the Good Life is the track, and Warren Wolf, of course, on vibraphone. Imani Grace Cooper is the vocalist. Brett Williams on piano. Richie Good on bass, and Carol Dashel the third on drums. Enjoy.
Walking down the street at night, thinking about how good is my life. Took a moment to stop and say thank you. Have 5 children, what can I say? Nothing more makes a brighter day. Took a moment to stop and say thank you. Living good life, living good life, living good There was a time when I was hurt. Keeping focus, I just went to work, thanking him for blessing me so far. Things began to look better when that moment I met my heaven. Took a moment to stop and say thank you. Living a good life, living good life, living good life, living good life. Have a wolf pack to call my own. Kamara, Devon, Caden, Sebastian, and Zoe. And where would I be without my family? Oh, living the good life. Come on, live the good life. Live a good life. I'm living a good life. Living a good life. Good life.
was Living the Good Life from Warren Wolf's most recent Mac Avenue release, Reincarnation. Great new sound and brand new recording to listen to. To close it out, we'll dive into Bebop times 10. Since you had the 1 minute swing on this one, there is all the minutes of swing on this last one. Talking about this, right now, you're actually pretty busy. I was looking at your schedule. You have several dates on Die Musik and Keystone Corner, and looks like things are moving up. What's your outlook here?
I honestly have not stopped gigging since March. There are two main reasons behind that. Number one is my family. Total, I have 5 children. 3 are from a previous marriage, and then I have 2 with my current wife. But I got to be a man to support my family, and 2, I got to keep playing. But I've been definitely going back and forth between Keystone and Die Musik very often, between presenting some of my own shows or just being a guest with other people. So it's actually been really cool. Sometimes when I'm bringing some artists I've brought into town, especially at Keystone, typically when I do that, I like to separate the two. There's the Warren Wolf, the pianist, and then there's Warren Wolf, the vibes. I like to leave the vibes really just for myself. Like if I'm featuring my own music, I don't typically, not all the time, this is not concrete, but I typically don't want to really play the vibes with other people that's going to label me as a sideman. I've been blessed to say that I've been bringing in artists where I can play more piano. Whoever I decide to bring in, you'll see me on piano.
That's, and that's great. This whole entrepreneurial thinking about you got to keep going and there's ways to put things together. We started like live streaming in the living room and in the driveway because, in Bloomington, Indiana, we don't have a Keystone Corner and a club to do that. So we depend on the localities where we are. But the idea of just, finding ways of...
I got to say, when everything first shut down for this entire city, I don't really want to say this is 100%, but I think I was probably one of the first people to do a live stream show. What happened, I was just going to do something from home. Because remember when everything shut down, the whole wearing masks thing wasn't even thought of yet. It was just more like, okay, if we're going to be around each other, just stay away a little bit. The whole mask was just like, what? My plan was to have some friends come over to my house, and I was just going to put the phone up and just record. The guy at Die Musik called, and he said, Warren, let's just do it here. And I said, okay, well, I don't know what to do. I don't have any professional cameras. And he said, well, let me research it. So we found some people who had a nice camera. I just played the Die Musik, I would say 2 days ago. So far, they had 103 shows all live streamed since March. I can say I was the very first one. And he has them like all listed because you can still go back and purchase shows if you want to watch. But my concert, I did a trio show, and it says Warren Wolf, Die Musik show #1. So I'm happy to say I was the first person to do that. And at Keystone, when they first started Keystone, Todd Barkin said, Warren, let's do a live stream. I want you to be the first one. I said, let's do it.
Go, Warren.
Anything for my city. I just want to keep the music happening. Like you said earlier, it brings people need music. I think it helps uplift them. It gives them something to look forward to, because a lot of people during this time are lots of emotions. You're either happy, you're sad. Some days you wake up, you just don't want to do anything. So it gives people a different outlook. Instead of thinking about everything that's going on in the news, and you can actually just turn and look at some good music and just take your mind away from that stuff for 1 hour. I like to look at us as musicians, yourself as well, Monica. We're all musical healers. Our job is to bring joy and happiness. Just to purchase your ticket, you just want to bring them happiness for that moment.
Absolutely, you're right. So hopefully we can keep doing that and find better ways of getting together again. So, but I really appreciate your sharing. And so this last one, then we're gonna enjoy. I promise the Bebop times 10 from a release that has your nickname in it, the Warren Channel Pozo Wolf, meaning after Dizzy Gillespie's percussionist. Is there a special story why that came about? Or
if I had to guess, of course it has something to do with Dizzy Gillespie's percussionist, but because my dad plays percussionist too. I don't think when he gave me that name it's not something that came up as a 3 or 4 year old. They've been calling me that since birth. I think he just said, let's just give him a nickname, and it's just going to be Chano.
That's
And
what you get when your dad is a percussionist.
my dad has not one bit of Latin on him. He just called me Chano, so that's just what it is.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and chatting and telling your stories and bringing us a lot of joy and uplift that we need at this time.
No problem.
So, and as we mentioned, there's a brand new release out there, a Reincarnation, that everybody should find. This last one, we're going to enjoy a smaller group setting and the swing setting. So this is Proto Cosmos from Warren, Chano, Pozo, Wolf, Tim Green on the alto sax, Luis Cato on the bass, Dana Hawkins on the drums, and of course Warren Wolf. So thank you so much and enjoy this last tune. You're listening to Talking Jazz. My guest today was mallet player, educator, composer Warren Wolf. Tune in for Talking Jazz every Thursday at 11 a.m. and every Monday at 7 p.m. right here on WETF 105.7 FM in South Bend, Indiana, or online at WETFthejazzstation.org. Also find videos of previous shows on YouTube on the Monica Herzig channel. That's MonikaHerzig. Subscribe to get the newest updates. Thank you for listening.